Welcome to the Uplift, where we are uplifting our lives, uplifting each other, and uplifting our communities together. Thank you for joining myself, Sai Herrera, and Tessa Savala here, two women, two attorneys, doing it our way, and inviting you here each week to share in on the stories, advice, and life lessons we've picked up along our journeys that keep us uplifted, and that will hopefully do the very same thing for you. Now buckle in and let's get ready to be uplifted.
Hej, det här är Tessa och jag är här med en otroligt underbart Sai. Hi, this is Tessa, and as always I am joined by the lovely and amazing and wonderful Sai. So looking forward to this conversation today.
Me too. Hi everyone, it's Sai, and I'm so grateful to be here live in person with Tessa, to be in her beautiful aura.
This is our first time recording in person together.
Yes, yeah. I think it's going to be really special.
Me too. So we were thinking about the type of information that we take in. Whew, I almost forgot what the topic was, guys, just to be honest about what's happening here. And how you curate it and how your life is impacted by what's around you and the information you take in and the type of people you're around. Like your environment impacts how you're thinking and how you react, whether you react, how quickly you react. And I think I'm using react in a way that's like, you really don't want to be reacting, right? Like, you know, that uncle who's just like really quick to say something snide or really quick to make fun of somebody. Like, we don't want to be that person. I don't think, at least I don't want to be that person, because I feel like I've been on the receiving end of that and it's not so fun. But it's the same with like how you take in information, like what newspapers you read, or if you're getting it through social media, like, is it coming to you in a way that's helpful and useful to you? Because I think we all take in information differently, and we should accept that and use a method that is best for us, right? Because I know I have been very keen lately to block people because I and it could just be I don't like that they always have loud music attached to it, or I don't like their font choice, which, you know, sometimes that is for me, because if I have to squint because they have like some squiggly font, I'm like, no, not worth my time.
Yeah, for me, I think about that as like not so much what you will react to or how you react, but like just overall setting yourself up for success, right?
How it feeds you.
Yeah, and I think about, you know, the garden, the gardener, the Tessa, the gardener. And just thinking about the soil, like when the soil is rich, you know, and has the nutrients that are needed, the plants are going to thrive, right?
They are.
And so I just think about it that way. And very much so in terms of like, when you know yourself, then you know what nutrients you need too.
This reminds me of something that I think was a very hard lesson for me to learn as an adult, was that it was okay to remove yourself from people who didn't feed your soul. Like, I think that is like adulthood lesson number one.
Oh,
like
man.
Not having to expose yourself to people or information that is just...
Or situations
that are too much. And especially for, I think, women in the United States, people who are otherwise othered, we are socialized to sit through it, and that we have to just be polite about it and just let them say whatever horrible things and let them treat you however horribly they are. And that is just, no. It's a hard no on that. And I would never advise somebody to be like, yeah, just sit through it. Absolutely not.
What would you advise someone to do in that situation? Because, I mean, I think first I want to acknowledge how much that is the water, right? So like you said, it should be the first lesson of adulthood. And I can tell you for sure that was not the first thing I learned in adulthood. I really wish it was. And I really wish there was the curriculum that was set up in that way, because it would have saved me a lot of suffering. But what would you advise someone to do in those cases? Because, you know, first you have to be aware that it's even happening.
Yep.
But once you hit that, you know, that's a huge milestone. Now what? Now what do you do instead?
I love a list. I mean, I really love a list. And so I am a very much pro, con, and kind of neutral list maker. And that helped me, especially when I was younger, because it's hard, especially if you have a long-term friendship with a person, or it's a family member, or it's a friend of the family. How do you make these decisions from people that you have been socialized that you're supposed to like and you're supposed to be around?
Or respect.
Oh, yeah. Respect is earned. It is not just freely given, people.
Yes. That's another lesson. That's
And I guess
you gotta unlearn.
How much does it cost you, right? Like, are you a person who could just like mentally check out and just sit through a situation, or are you a person who is impacted by what is said around you? And I think a lot of us are impacted by what is said around us. And I mean, I remember things down to like, and I think I've said it before in the podcast, being 5-year-old in the pantry trying to get a snack for my 3-year-old brother. And I was speaking Swedish while I was trying to figure it out like I normally do to myself. And my little brother said to me, "Tessa, you're an American now. Speak American." And I'm just like, "You're an idiot." And that sentiment, and he's a perfect example of somebody that I have now eliminated from my life because of his behavior and the things that he says to people are just not, it's not a healthy environment.
Yeah.
And you do it even when it's hard. And he specifically, it took years for me to get to that point. And then there was always that peek under the curtain, like, oh, maybe he'll be better now. Let me tell you, people, they don't get better. Maybe they do. But
well, we don't know, and it's none of our business. It's not our responsibility. I think that's the hard part for me, is like I always fall in love with people's potential.
But it's such a good trait, but it's so hard.
Is it good? I don't know. I'll trade you. I feel like I can see all the good in people, but it's so innate that I don't even realize I'm doing it. And that's the tricky part, because I'm just like, no, they're good. Just overall, I'm like, they're good people. Yeah. But then I'm like, oh no, they could be great. They could be good. I'm waiting for them to get there. I'm hoping that they're going to get there. I just assume that they're going to get there, which is where it gets dangerous, right? Yeah. And so what about that? Like, how do you figure out who in your life actually is serving you or not? Like, have you ever had trouble really distinguishing that?
I have, and I made a list.
And the list, the list is back, yes.
And it was less about, as I grew older, it was less about what I saw as problematic from that other person, and more about how I felt about it, right?
Right.
Which totally flipped the list, which I think just came with maturity, in that, for me, I needed to understand whether or not this was something I would accept and something I would tolerate. And I think that can be different, and it's just certainly probably involved what I was going through with my brother at the time, because it was easy to distance yourself from people who you don't have that much of a connection to. But when it's somebody you have a lot of connection to, it took a lot more, and realizing that it wasn't just about his behavior, it was more about how I felt about it and whether or not that was something I would accept for myself. And I like to think that as we get older and wiser, we are better at protecting ourselves. I don't think that's necessarily always true. I think it's probably a practice. But for me, I started practicing what served me better and what helped me become what I wanted to be as a better person by making a list of, I feel bad after having a conversation with him, and that feeling bad could last a year. And when that lasts that long, that's a hard no, not going to be around it, right?
That's a high price to pay.
It is a high price to pay.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be the person who got pulled into that kind of just cesspool of negativity that was coming toward me. And so I just had to put a stop to it just to protect my own peace.
Well, I feel like you're such at masterclass level with this that we have to break it down a little bit, because there's so much in there that I think you just, kind of glazed over so many steps that you really are just doing now through your practice and wisdom, right? So I think the very first thing is to just have awareness about how other people impact you and your emotional state, right? It's like if you just go through life, being a people pleaser, for example. I mean, most people pleasers don't even, they're not even in touch with their body, let alone, their physical body, their emotional body, their spiritual body, like none of them, right? They're just like, oh, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And let me serve you and let me do those things. And then that's why a lot of times they get heartbroken, because they think, well, I gave you everything and you would think I should be able to expect the same from you, or at least like decency from you, or whatever, right? Sadly, that's not how people work.
It's not. And I've tried to think, as you mentioned that, how did I get to that point? Before I journaled, I had a lot of conversations with myself.
I like that.
And
when would you have conversations with
in
yourself?
the car. So like at that point, I was commuting from downtown to my home, and that,
you had that alone time.
Had that alone time. At the time, I didn't listen to music in the car because I was so deep in my head, and so I just had conversations with myself to figure out, hey, what's sticking there and what's not. But then I realized when they were conversations, I felt they lingered more with me, and if it was something that I discovered that was like I did not like and it was impacting me, I felt like it almost lingered more by having the conversation because I had acknowledged it, and then it was like, the usual, you're in your mid-20s and you're like beating yourself up because you ended up in this situation, right? Like, what did I do wrong, or what did I do to deserve this, or why can't someone just be a decent human being to me when I'm a decent human being to them? But then I started journaling, and I think the removal from the conversation helped me understand that I could close it and it wasn't stuck in my brain anymore. Like I had put it onto paper, or I had typed it up into something, and I could close it, I could shut whatever app I was using, I could shut the book, and I could move it away, and it didn't linger. And for me, allowing to be free without that, like lingering thought, but I could come back to it when I wanted to open it up. And I do often reread my journal entries to understand like progress or things that are still sticking, because I want to, have a list of what things I want to do to like become the ideal version of myself. Yeah.
I love the idea of separation. I think as much as I have been journaling, I don't think I've been doing it as much to like track my emotional state as much as I use it to like explore my thoughts deeper, if that makes sense. So
it does. I think that's because you are so well adjusted with your emotions that I think of myself as somebody who either didn't have them or does have them and doesn't know how to, like, I've just figured out they exist. What do I do with them?
I disagree. I think that you're actually very emotionally aware through your practice, and that the practice is stronger than being just like sensitive, right?
Yeah.
And I don't use sensitive in a bad way. I think it's a great thing to have that connection to your emotional state, and to be able to feel your feelings. A lot of people have created so many coping mechanisms that they don't even feel their feelings because they can and they don't want to, and they avoid it, right? So I don't think that's a bad thing, but I think the practice is actually incredibly valuable, because like I can feel when somebody makes me uncomfortable. I can feel like I don't like that feeling and I don't know what to do with it, but sometimes my feelings are overwhelming. So my go-to used to be like just like either like literal trauma responses of like, I'm gonna fight you now, we're gonna argue and I'm going to win, like type thing. Like that was my first go-to. Or like a little bit of a freeze situation of like, I'm so stunned that this is happening, I'm just gonna stop talking, right?
When you stopped talking, did you stay in that situation or did you walk away?
No, that would be flight. And flight is not one of my natural defense mechanisms, unfortunately. I wish it was. I think I would be a lot better off if it were. But it's not. I think I'm always concerned also about the other person, that I don't think about like just leaving. Like that's an option, right?
Yeah. Do you prioritize the other person's experience more than your own?
Yeah, even when it comes to fighting, I think that part of that is wanting the other person to really like hear my side, to get what I'm saying, to get them there with me. Like I'm trying to bring them with me. Like it's not like I'm fighting them because I want to defeat them actually. It's more like, no, you don't understand. Like this is what I'm saying, and then this is why it makes sense. And like I'm trying to persuade, I'm trying to convince.
Is it because they have the potential to understand that in your mind? Which I think is
I think so.
Very
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I think that I just assume everyone does. Like that's where I start from. It's like I especially as a younger person before learning the lessons of experience, I always just thought like, well, if I can understand this, anyone can understand this. So I can just explain it to them and then they'll understand it, right? Yeah. So it's a hard lesson to learn, but I find so much, admiration in the practice of actually working through your emotions on paper because, first of all, there's a bunch of science about, writing things down. Like there's a whole bunch of science on that and why it's good for you. But the thing you said about being able to put it away is awesome because that's one of the things I struggle with the most, I think, is like I can, think about my feelings a lot. And I can, I can even like, I don't know, practice in a way to like release some of that emotion or the tension that it's causing or whatever. But the rumination is really hard for me because it's still there, right? And so it comes back over and over again, even when I don't want it. And then I have to do the practice again to try to like release it, right? Until it just starts to go away. And then, I mean, it might come back like years later, like it can come back anytime, right? So I think anything that can help you like really feel like you're putting something away and it's okay to put it there. It reminds me of when we're talking about our schedules and how I like to like be like, okay, that thing is going to be in the future on some future date. I don't have to worry about that right now. Like, I love that idea, that practice. I bet you that would serve me and serve a lot of people to just be able to say in your brain, okay, we thought about that. Let's put it over here for now. Let's move on.
And I think it's easier every time you do it, right? Like, I remember for a while I would stop myself from thinking about it and be like, nope, not until I open that book. And when I open that book, then I'm back in it. Because it's so easy, I thought, because I wanted to make it so precise and like I had to like science it out so that I could then become, in my way, how do I become the best version of me? Which started, a practice way back when I was probably way too young to have these thoughts. But it also helped me focus more in that it allowed me to be free of it when it was away. And I think that was very liberating for me.
And it makes me think about psychologically why we have ruminating thoughts. Actually, the reason is the fear that your body feels, right? Like your body is trained to always think like, what's going to keep us safe? How do we stay safe? Like what's going to, what do we need to be anticipating so that we can be safe, right? So like if you have a thought that's traumatizing or disturbing or even just like emotionally like triggering in some way, like your body is going to want to go back to that to make sure that we have did we actually resolve that? Did we actually neutralize the situation or not? Like we need to make sure, right? The brain is always working too much, is doing too much. But if you have, I feel like what you're talking about, and this could be wrong, but it feels so much like a cognitive behavioral therapy situation because in cognitive CBT, like you train yourself, like, to change your behavior and then it changes, your mindset essentially. And so I like that you have a way even to do that because when it's just internal, you don't actually like it's very difficult to be like, oh no, we're not going to think about that, right? Like because your brain doesn't believe you that there's something safe about it, right? Like you're telling your brain when you have that journal over here, like, no, we're safe. We're going to intentionally like go back to that when it makes sense.
And now thinking about it as you explained that, I think the reason I've been able to like put it into a box that I then opened later, I was young, like 10-ish, maybe 8-ish, and I was hypnotized by this world famous hypnotist who happened to be my uncle's father. This was an American uncle who married one of my mom's sisters.
Okay.
And when I was hypnotized, it was about focus. And so I have since then, in his practice, have a very strong sense of focus. Like he was one of these like quasi-famous people who like hypnotized stars and was the person who helped contribute to solving the murder in Truman Capote's In Cold Blood. Like big deal kind of guy.
Wow.
And it was very soothing. And he hypnotized my brother and I. My brother for his focus and his gymnastics, and mine for the focus of just me being a focused human. And it really works. Like I still use the technique every night to fall asleep. And it's guaranteed to like, whew, and I literally like my whole body shakes and I fall asleep.
Wow.
Sometimes too much and I wake myself up, but then I just do it again and it works. But it helps with everything, right? Even if I'm in law school, like in a class, like if I wandered out of my mind, like I could immediately get myself right back there because of whatever, because of the simple practice of just like this short counting and then being present. But then layering onto it, like when I found Buddhism, it really helped me like zone in because it gives you the tools to be more present through meditation.
Yeah.
Which I think in combination helps me leave the journal and then come back to the journal. And also leave the thoughts connected to the journal in the box.
Well, now it's making me think, like, what's this hypnotism trick? Because maybe that's what I need to learn. But I mean, what you're saying, that's what I was saying before, is like you have so many steps in here that you're kind of like, just tucking into the practice, but like, just having that awareness, first of all, and having the intentionality of even reflecting upon someone else's energy, their aura, their presence, like, and how that impacts you. It's just like step one, right?
It is, and I always thought it was because I was so nerdy and didn't understand my own emotions, so I was studying all these humans to figure out what these emotions were, how they impacted me, and how I could figure it out. Right? I consider it at the beginning a social experiment.
Yeah.
And it worked, I think, because it kept me somewhat removed from the situation in some ways.
That can help too. In Buddhism, actually, they talk a lot about that little bit of separation. Just that one little bit of separation. Like you talked about it almost as like a whole, experiment that like separates you from like being like an emotional being experiencing the emotions to being like someone who's studying them, right? But in Buddhism, they talk about like just that one step removal of being like, I am not sad. My body is experiencing sadness.
That's powerful.
It really is, and it's wildly profound in that if you understand, the tenements of that, it's really based on the belief and understanding that we are not this, actually, right? Like we are not our reactions. Like you were talking about reaction earlier, and it's like we're not reactions. We're the person observing the reactions.
Oh.
We're not the thoughts. We're the person observing the thoughts.
Fascinating.
Right. So if you have that one little bit of separation, you can say like, I'm so offended. I can't believe you said that to me. I'm so offended. Well, you've been taken over. Right? Like you're reacting. You're not in control of anything. But if you can say like, oh, when you said that, my body started to sense like, this heat. I felt the sensation in my chest.
Interesting.
Like my body is experiencing anger right now, or what have you. Like whenever you have that little bit of separation, it just gives you enough room to understand that like, it doesn't define you.
Have you used this in a way when you're with somebody who is threatening your peace? Not necessarily, could be physically, could be just like emotional, right? Have those tricks helped you? I don't want to call them tricks. Has the
Technique?
Does the technique, does the practice help you from reacting so that you are taken over, as you explained?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing I want to say there is, like our topic, you want to cultivate an environment where you're going to thrive to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to say, like, I've had less opportunity to practice, which I think is fantastic, because of that cultivation of environment and curation of the people in my circle, right?
Did that practice help you curate better than you had previously?
Yeah, I think so, because here's one good example for me. Like for me, I've always had issues with boundaries because I was never taught boundaries and didn't know what they were and didn't know that they were good or important, right?
Yeah.
And also like the opposite was encouraged of like, you're me, I'm you, we are we doing everything together type of thing, and having that sense of self is difficult when you come from that space. So one thing that's helped me is like, because of that, I call it grooming, but you can call it programming, training, socialization, whatever you want to call it. I feel a lot of guilt when I bring into my space like any kind of boundaries, right?
Oh, that must be hard.
It's so hard, but I can do hard things.
You can do hard things,
and so that's kind of when I've been using it the most recently. It's just like, I'll be like, well, this person has behaved in this way, and another thing I do is like I distance myself from that person mentally, where instead of being like, oh, I should be nice to that person, or I should be more kind, or I should be more forgiving, or I should be more accepting of them, I say like, I accept them for who they are and the actions that they're taking, and like my body is experiencing sensations of guilt, but I haven't done anything wrong. So therefore, I'm not guilty of anything. And, their actions are their actions. They are independent, sovereign beings, and their choices are theirs, and I don't control them. That's another big trick for me, is like, for me, when you're putting power over another person and you're trying to control them, even if it's for their own good, even if you're manipulating someone because you think it's going to make them happier or something, you're still being abusive in my book.
I see where you're going, yeah.
And so because I'm such an anti-abuse person, that's just in alignment with my values of like, we don't do abuse. That's the first thing I always think of, is like, am I letting this person exercise their free will? Or am I trying to exercise my will and power over them, right? And if I'm doing that, then like, I know that I've gone too far. Like, there's no boundary there. So I just say like, I feel my body is feeling, sensations of guilt, but then I use my brain to say like, but I've done nothing wrong. Like, I'm actually letting them be who they are, and that's who they want to be, and there's no changing that. I don't have that power. And also, I want to let them live their own journey, walk their own path, and who am I to interfere with that?
And is there a reciprocal thought too? Like, I wouldn't want them to impose their views upon me.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had that, like, I think my rebellious nature comes from the idea of like, I hate people telling me what to do. I can't stand it.
Same.
I'm just like, stop. Like, I mean, and this is, even as a child, especially as a teenager, I'm just like, why do you care, first of all? Like, let me do what I want to do. It's my life.
Is this a question the source situation? Maybe this is where we've ended up with this information that we're taking in, or people that we're taking in.
Yes.
Is the first question, really consider the source?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if that source is not you and your values, then it's never going to be as important, actually, right? And you can respect somebody to the umpteenth power, but if they are not, in this moment, in this situation, in this hypothetical, like, if they're not in alignment with where you're at right now in your life, then they're not, like, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Is that the hardest part for you? And I think it was for me. Like, how do you get past there's some mutual hurt, or like there's the emotional like swamp in the middle that you're trying to figure your way around? And do you even need to, right? Like, is that what it is? That they're allowed to be them, we're allowed to be us, and we just let it be at that, and we make our choices.
I think that's the biggest challenge, is if you really think about it honestly. If you're really, really honest with yourself, the parts that struggle the most in human relationships are where we want it to be different than what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Which means we want a person to be different than who they are. Right?
Yeah.
And that's why, I'm realizing now in my reflection that I'm always asking, why? Why are you doing that? Why are you saying that? Why would you do it that way? Why? Like, I always was obsessed with the why. And I always thought if I could just figure out why people are doing stuff like this, then I could fix it. Right? Solution. Here's the solution. But what I've realized is people don't work that way. I got a whole ass degree in psychology to try to figure that out. And now I realize that like people are gonna people, and it's good. I always thought it was bad because I'm like, no, they don't know the solution, or they don't know the right thing, or, and it sounds very arrogant, but it's not that. It's just when you realize that like people are in a certain state for a reason, it gets you one step closer to acceptance.
All that talk about psychology and human nature and the like made me realize 5 years ago-ish, maybe pandemic time-ish, I made a New Year's resolution, which is not something I do, just to see the good in every single interaction. And I then adapted that later to when there's people that I would otherwise like to keep it at arm's length or have a boundary with, I have just started rewarding their good behavior as I see it as good behavior, right? And it works. Like rewarding positive behavior or rewarding somebody who is just a decent human being for once.
Yeah.
And you haven't experienced that person as a decent human being before, and rewarding that with like compliments and the like, very helpful.
Well, psychology says positive reinforcement is the best.
It is, and it helps you too, right? Like it took away any negative connotations I had around these people, because I've now replaced those negative connotations to just rewarding the positive behavior.
And it also, like when you really think about empathy, if you really believe in empathy, then you would believe the fact that no one is perfect, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
And this is the hard part for me because I always want to believe in all of the best of people, right? But I think where there is an in between, the middle path, the right path is what Buddhism calls it actually, is seeing what's really true and accepting that truth. You know, like I said, I will focus on a person's potential that's unrealized and isn't there.
Yeah.
But in my mind, somehow, like, I see it now. I do. Like, I'm like, no, that person is good right now. And I have to bring myself back to understand that, like, this is actually what their behaviors are versus what I think that they could do, right? For you, maybe, or even other times for myself, like, I've only seen the bad in people because there's been so much bad. And so when they're having a good day, it's hard for me to even accept it as good. So do you see what I mean in terms of like the realism of it all? Is always colored if we carry those like preconceived notions or judgments or what have you. Like we're projecting something onto a person. But I love the idea of like taking people for who they are, what they're actually doing in this moment, because all of us have grown, right?
Yeah.
So how can we say like it's not possible? Of course it's possible, right? And how would we even know that it's happening unless we are actually accepting the reality, right? And observing their behaviors in this moment.
I know this person who, when say somebody who you've only known to do really bad things and say really bad things, when they're saying them, her response is always, "Of course you do," or "Of course," right? And I'm like, and when you were explaining, I'm like, it's a nice neutral little path right through the middle of that, right? It's not necessarily accepting them for who they are, but it's maybe acknowledging who they are without accepting it, and maybe that's like a baby step forward to how do you get to accepting them as they are, and then making the determination whether or not they should stay. Let's note that might need to help too.
Yeah. And also it feels like you talked about relationship boundaries. And, you know, my curandera and therapist told me once, like, when you first start practicing boundaries, it's going to be a hard boundary because you don't know how to do it any other way right now. You don't have the finesse. You don't have, like, the little, like, nuance or what have you, right? Like, all you know is, like, stonewall. That might, and that's okay. She's like, you can start there because that's, like, a simple thing to do. But it also made me think about if you actually observe behavior and just accept it in that moment, then you can actually see how that person is changing or not. And you can decide, like you were saying earlier, what makes sense for you to allow in your realm, really, right? So like one of the things I advise my sister all the time on is like, just walk away. You know, like if I'm like, if somebody is being a jerk to you, like you don't have to sit there. And this comes from my experience again of like wanting to convince people that like I'm right, or like I'm, you know, this is good, or whatever they're thinking about me is wrong, or whatever. And just knowing the power of like, you could just walk away. Or you could just like say like, yeah, I'm not going to take that person's calls anymore. So I'm gonna block them. The block is it's just like a beautiful invention and gift to humanity. But that's what I mean is like actually being in that middle path, and your friend saying, of course you are, of course you do. There is something amazing about that, because it doesn't feel like you're being aggressive or offensive in any way.
Or dismissive. It's just
or dismissive. Yeah, you're just like, or argumentative or contrarian. Like you're not having to defend yourself. And I think that's actually another big thing, is when you feel secure in yourself and you have a strong sense of self, becomes less important, right?
It does, but I guess it goes back to the beginning on whether or not how much you're willing to tolerate, right? Like if you have curated your environment, your realm so strongly, it gives you like this superpower to like handle some of these people that you might not otherwise want to handle.
So how do we curate our environments, first of all? I think that this is I was just thinking about all the different experiences people would have in their lives where it's like, you know, maybe impossible to really, or it feels impossible to really do that, or like it might feel like so foreign to even think about like curating your environment. So like what are some ways that you moved from like just having an environment you were gifted by coming into this earth, right, versus architecting and curating, you know, the environment that you have now or that you're building towards?
I think for me, as an adult, I realized I did it as a child because I always felt more alive when I was just with my mom in Sweden, right? And being away from a negative source, I realized, oh, there's some power for removing yourself from it, and it's very helpful.
You had that sense of removal earlier,
and it gave me as a kid the strength to like start asking questions about what kind of behavior are we really tolerating, which, you know, lucky for me, I was able to communicate with my mom in a language that nobody else in the household understood, which was helpful, right? And I think noticing it then made me better as an adult. But as an adult, I realized it is, one, accepting, at least from my perspective, that just because you're related by blood doesn't mean that person is family, right? Like understanding that family and chosen family and the power of chosen family. Once you realize the power of chosen family, you realize how much time you wasted with some blood relatives that maybe shouldn't have been family. That was super helpful
or had
for
the
me.
privileges of family.
Yeah.
From you,
Yeah, because I think at least societally, there's this like, you exalt the family in the United States, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't build independence into family structure, right? Like it's not, say, 4 independent humans in this family.
Right.
It is the authority people and the people who are submissive to those authority people.
The hierarchy.
And noticing the difference in Sweden is that everybody is given their autonomy, even when you're very young, and which I think made it easier for me to understand in the United States, like, okay, these people are not going to be equals. We're not all fully formed individuals in this situation. And I think that analysis of like kind of stepping back, I'm like, okay, is this a fully formed adult, or is it just somebody who is, you know, reacting from all their trauma, and that's what they lean in with? Which, you know, fine, it's their journey, but do I have to be around that journey?
And do you have to be their teacher?
No.
And do you have to be their guide?
No.
And do you have to be their caretaker?
No, and you don't have to fix them, and you don't need to fix them.
Yeah, that's
And
you
you don't have the responsibility of fixing them. The only person that's responsible for fixing them is themselves.
Yes, that part.
But I also realized, especially as my parents age, the impact of some certain news channels have on, say, the elderly, the senior population of the United States, where I personally view some of these news channels as cult-like, right? Like, especially when non-facts are accepted and discussed
I love a non-fact.
in a way that make them sound like facts when they're not, right? Like, or, the language of the Constitution, which apparently in some people's minds says something that it doesn't say, and I have never learned in law school that it said, and didn't have it accepted since in any court. But having to deal with that and realizing that the power information has on you is just as important as the people around you, right? Like, and curate it, because I don't do well with, say, dramatic headlines. So the New York Post is very hard for me because it is very drama oriented, and that's how they sell papers, and that's their business, and that's their business model. That's great for them, but I don't have to be the one who absorbs it.
Right. Absolutely. How do you curate your information environment? Like, how do you make sure that, you said you don't like dramatic headlines. Like, how do you avoid them even? Like, how do you make sure that you're not going to encounter them left and right?
I have discovered the power of social media. So all those newspapers that I could go read on their websites or through a news source, I have subscribed, I have added as followed all those like news sources. And so my social media is essentially a lot of news people from news sources that I like. And when it's social media, they don't have enough space for a headline. They're just going to use probably a picture, usually not the headline, and a quick description that has no drama because, right, it's a quick description. They don't have space for it. And so that has helped me to discern what kind of news I actually want to listen to or consume in some way.
What do you consume besides social media in terms of information? Like, I've been thinking about all the media, that we take in, and for everyone it's different, right? Like you were saying, you used to, or you didn't listen to music on your way home, like, but do you listen to music, and do you watch movies and shows and all the things? Like, how do you have impact on those things?
I have now curated playlists that counteract my mood, right? Like if I am very happy, I will listen to very sad music because of like this desire to like just be kind of even and level, right? But I also have playlists that if I am, say, angry with a political landscape, I have a protest playlist that is like just a good way to like get out all the emotions. Like nobody would assume I'm a person who listens to a lot of Rage Against the Machine by looking at me, but I do.
Same thing with me and Tupac. People don't believe it, but I'm like, love it.
But then I also have I'm feeling anxious, I need to focus and I'm not focused. Just this playlist that is just comforting because it's things I associate with joy or something that I have listened to frequently. It's very helpful to me as well. Or I have a playlist that's just European music when I'm just like, I feel like there's too much Go USA around me. I go right to the Euro playlist.
One of the things that comes up for me when I hear you describe that is, one, the intentionality of it, right? Like at literally curating playlists that are going to impact your mood in some way. I think that people, oftentimes become like bystander consumers of things, if that makes sense, right?
It does, yeah.
Where it's like not intentional at all. It's just like, I always say, like, are you going to let the world push you around, or are you going to tell the world what you're going to do or what you're going to have, right? And I think it's the same kind of thing with media, where it's like, if you're not curating and you're not being intentional with it, like, what did you say earlier? Like, schedule your piece because pain is going to schedule itself type thing. I think the same thing with media. It's like, if you're not intentional, if you don't, like make sure that this is what you're going to be consuming, then you're going to be consuming whatever the world wants to throw at you. and it's probably not gonna be good for you.
It's not. And I've noticed that I'm much more intentional when there is a leadership that is that contravenes my view of how the world should be.
What do you mean?
I'm trying to find a politically correct way, which is totally inappropriate, but I currently do not follow the same views as the administration. Mm-hmm. And therefore the news that has been directed by this administration, I find upsetting many times.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I am not a person who likes the idea of police killing toddlers. Don't think that's a great thing. Don't like the idea of putting people in captivity. Lots of problems I have. I love the Constitution and currently miss it. And so by avoiding those headlines,
Yeah.
or if I see them, I then take in the social media, and if it impacts me in a way that like brings up those that tension that I feel in myself, I then turn to music that allows me to express that tension, like my protest music, and then I kind of like ease into like, what's something mood leveling, right? Like, I don't want to. I'm not a person
You don't
who
want to stay in that like rage or whatever.
I don't want to stay in that rage. I'm not a person who enjoys anger because efficiency, right? Like, for me, it's emotional efficiency. It is not emotionally efficient for my life if I stay in that anger, and I want to as quickly put it into a box, acknowledge it, accept it, but move on, because it is not a way that I want to be, right?
It sounds like you're processing it and you're moving through it.
Yeah.
And that's basically how you deal with emotions. Like, the people who get into the most trouble are the ones who avoid. Like, if you avoid it, then it's always going to come back and bite you. So
how do you curate the information you take in? Like, I feel like I've done a lot of talking. So how do you do it, right? Because it's so, in this world with all this information, you're getting it through social media or through YouTube or through television or through print media. I mean, and I feel like it's everywhere. And people are repeating things that come from places that believe in truth and don't believe in truth. And it's, or I don't even know if as a country we know what truth is anymore. Or the media cares about truth anymore.
I'm going to say no. I think that has gone to the wayside for sure. For me, I have curated my information intake by cutting a lot of it out, frankly. Like, for me, it's way too much. It's just way too much. Like, I'm already, in my mind wanting to go in a lot of different directions. So, like, having an endless stream of information coming at me where the subject changes every 2 seconds is way too much. So overload for me, period. Not aligned with my energy, and the energy that I want to invoke too. I think that's the other thing, is like, I could do that all day, but I know it's not good for me.
Do you feel it? Like, can you feel it in your person?
Yeah. And the main thing that I realize is, if I can articulate it well, it would be something like noticing the disconnection from my body. So I spent a whole intentional era on embodiment and integration, because the world as it is and the world as it would have me engage with it is so scattered and so like, look over here, look over here, look over here, that like, I know because I did it, I was in it. When I do that, I experience a mind-body disconnection. That's very harmful for my well-being. So for me, I've had to literally be like, these formats do not work for me. These are not good for me. And I don't enjoy them. Like, it's not good for my health. So I'm definitely, kind of like streamlining into ways that I get my information. I'm a fan of YouTube. I like YouTube because I can search what I want to search. It feels more like research, even though none of these sources are verified. But also it's like, you can take it or leave it for what you want, just like anything in the world. And I have found that, like, as my eras have changed, like, YouTube changes with me in a way where it's like actually showing me like creators that are speaking to the things that I actually want to learn about, that I want to know about, that I want to hear about. And so I don't know how the other algorithms work, but what I know is like I can't do most of the social media because it just feels like an endless stream of anxiety for me.
I can say that my algorithm somehow is now sending me a lot of witches and a lot of witches from Europe. So I'm like, I feel like there's a way to hack it,
Gets
because
me. Yeah.
right, like,
But see, you have to do so much to do it, and I think that's I think it's important if you are going to use those platforms, then you have to know how to make it for you,
Yeah.
for sure, right? And to make it healthy for you, right? The other thing I wonder is like I know there was a time in my life where like I felt like I had to know everything. I felt, and like I don't even know how I would survive today. Like back then, it was like a lot, and it was like there was not social media. It was like I would get online and I would watch this news thing that like I had to like know what's going on in the world, and I would have to like read the books, and I would have to like know a certain amount of things, but like it wasn't information overload back then, but it was still too much for me, where I was like, okay, I have to go from global to like more local. I'm thinking about too many people's issues right now. That's too much for me. So yeah, like for me, I think I've been able to curate the information I get, and I mean, I also like I really appreciate like the real world part of it. Like I feel like so much of the internet, the bad side or the bad impacts have been, or negative impacts in my mind anyways, is this false sense of connection that's not really connection, right? You can have you can create real connection online, don't get me wrong, like I think that's absolutely possible, but there's more of this like sense of connection that's not true connection, right? And that part makes me lean more into the opposite. So like that's when I go, you know what I need to do instead of being on social media? I'm gonna call my friend and I'm gonna ask her how she's doing.
how did you always understand how your body felt about a situation, or was it a practice? Do you remember a time where you were like, oh my God, I feel this, I need to get out of this situation, or change the situation, change my surroundings?
No, and this is why I'm such a fan of like bringing more reflection and awareness first, because it's the first step and you can't have anything else unless you have that, right? And the reason why I know that is because I was so bad at it. Like completely, self unaware, if that makes any phrase or language sense. I've always been, now that I look back and from this vantage point, like I've just always been on a burnout cycle, not just recently, but like I am a person who, like, if you say, run, like I run and I don't stop. Like I just go,
That's
like,
so funny, because I'm sitting here thinking, if somebody said run, I'd be like, why?
Why? Exactly.
Like, who are you to tell me what to do?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of thing that I've had to literally learn and cultivate in myself, because I'm always just thinking like, oh, I need to try my best, do the thing, whatever. So now that I look back, it's like I've recognized recently in the last few years of like, okay, like I'm trying to burn the candle on all ends, and I get pooped out basically. And then I realize like, oh, this is bad.
Because we can't do it all.
No. And I mean, what is it all anyways,
Reminds me of Socrates, who always said, I know that I don't know everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
And liberating.
Yeah. And not just because it's liberating, but because the philosophers knew that like we were here to learn.
Mm-hmm. And that we all didn't have to learn all the same thing.
All at the same time, right?
Yes.
And they say the person who thinks that they know everything is the fool.
Mm-hmm.
So, like there's always something more to learn. There's always something more to do. But as far as my awareness, I think that I've been such a cerebral person, because what I've learned from therapy is like that was my survival. Right? So like I was always able to use my intellect to get out of bad situations, or to like persuade people to be different or do a different thing.
Finding the solution.
Like having the brilliant idea, whatever.
Yep.
Or working hard as hell to like make a thing happen too.
Yeah.
The amount of forcing things that I didn't realize that I was doing, where I just thought like, oh, I'm just trying to do a good thing,
Yeah.
Now I look back and I realize like all that forcing takes a toll. It really does. And it's like, there's been so many times where it's like, I just now looking back, like even in this moment and realizing how far back it goes, where it's like, I'll just work myself to death until I crash. And then I realize like, oh, I'm sick, or I feel terrible, or I feel depressed, or like whatever, like where you're like, you can't deny it. You feel terrible, And so when that happens, then I'm always like, oh, what should I be doing differently, And I've always been trying to like hack life.
Yeah.
And now I realize that the answer is not doing more, it's doing less.
I love a slow life. I love romanticizing life. But all this made me wonder, can you think of a recent experience where like your body was telling you, I don't want to consume this information, I don't want to be around this person, I don't want this in my environment?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean there's lots of examples, but like even like you're talking about headlines, it made me think about sometimes on YouTube, one of the things I like is like you're not really seeing a bunch of stuff that you don't look into, right?
Yeah. So there's an intention to it.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah.
And I appreciate that, but once in a while, for some reason, YouTube will get some weird idea that I want to see the terrible, terrible news of the world, and it will show me like some tragic thing that happened, and I'll be like, no, YouTube, I don't want to know that. Leave me alone. And so I like go in there and literally tell YouTube like, do not show me stuff like this anymore, like very intentionally, because I don't want to see it. If I want to know the news, I know how to get it. Like,
I had a very physical reaction to a sporting event recently, and it was basketball in the finals. I have never watched basketball in my entire life. For some reason, my husband and I decided we're going to watch some of these finals games because he remembers growing up being a Spurs fan. So and I was like, what is this chaos? Why is it moving so fast? Why do there seem to be no rules? Why do people move around so fast? Why does the clock change and stuff? And I'm like, no, this is chaos. This is the United States in visual form for me. And he's looking at me like, what is happening? And I'm like, I don't know, but this chaos.
You're just like, no.
And I made it through, but after, I think we watched 2 of the final games, I'm like, I need a brain scrub. And like, I had to like, because I could
What
like.
did you do for your brain scrub?
Physically like feel it. I mean, humor, like a 30-minute comedy that was,
I love
Norwegian, and it was funny, and it's making fun of Vikings, and clearly self-aware. And I needed to get back to Europe, and I needed to like get out of this like everything has to be bigger and more extreme. And I always repeat a line from Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, where they see these like guys in this big truck with tires that are 6 feet tall, and they just start yelling extreme, and that's their only word is extreme. And it's like that was exactly how I was feeling, and I had to like settle into like 900 AD Vikings making fun of themselves because that was how I needed to correct. But it was the first time I remember having a physical reaction to something I saw on television.
You have to trust that so much. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but there's I guess there's this, I think it was a book that somebody was talking about, where they found all of these examples of people who like literally would have died if they hadn't like trusted their instinct. And it was really wild, where it was like this woman was in an elevator and somebody came in the elevator and she was just like, no. Like her body was just like, no. And she just left, she just got the elevator, and then that guy went on and like killed the next woman or whatever. And I always think about that because I'm just like, we're so programmed to ignore ourselves. And it's crazy because like everything that I was saying before in terms of like being on this burnout cycle, I think that for me, that burnout cycle is only possible because I'm staying in my mind, I'm staying in my brain, I'm staying in this place where it's like it will continuously run.
Yeah.
Your body won't do that. your body has to rest.
Ah.
Right? And even like if you have an overactive brain, like even when you're sleeping, you can have overactivity, right? Like you can have all the dreams or the thoughts or the waking up or whatever. But your body like it's more finite in a way. It's really weird, but yeah, getting in your body I think is always the answer, and always having like a little bit more intention on like listening to that part instead of your brain. The way I think about my brain now is like my brain is a thought factory and it makes thoughts. It doesn't care if they're good thoughts or bad thoughts or neutral thoughts. It just makes them.
Yeah.
And again, I am not the thoughts. I am the person observing the thoughts, right? So then I can look at a thought and be like, is this a thought that I want to engage or not? And to your point, like how much of a toll is it going to have on my body? So, you know, when it comes to people, it's a matter of actually being in tune with yourself, because like you said, so many people in your life, you're told you're just supposed to. You're just supposed to spend time with them. You're just supposed to respect them. You're just supposed to help them. To all the detriment of yourself. Like there's no limitation that people say, oh, well, you should help your brother, but only until it's inconvenient to you, or only until it starts impacting your health, or only until, like, no one ever tells you that. Like, I remember discovering this and, like, just telling my family ad nauseum, because I'm like, it was the greatest discovery where I was like, oh, do you know you're supposed to help people only until it hurts you? Which is still not even perfect or right. It's just like, that was amazing to me that like there was this idea of like, and there's a stopping point.
Especially as we're both eldest daughters.
Yes.
Like we have this innate need to like caretake and fix things, and especially when we have parents who are, say, not emotionally advanced. I guess might be a word. I don't know, that might not be the right word. Evolved? I don't know. Something. You know, did not meet our emotional needs. That might be the best way to look at it.
Which no parents ever do, actually.
No, absolutely not.
And no perfect parents.
And I think being the eldest daughter puts you in a place where you feel the need to fix it.
Yeah.
Just by the...
Yes.
Because you're always like, oh, well, take care of your sister. Or, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Yeah.
It's your role. It fits with everything else. So... And then that can extend to everything else, right? It extends to people in your friend circle, people in the workplace, people on the street. Like, it can extend to the whole wide world if you let it, right?
And I was very lucky growing up. My mom's oldest sister, so the oldest sister in her sibling group, left her homeland at...
Of 7, right?
Of 7. Left her homeland at 15, 16 to come to the United States. And I mean, I couldn't imagine being 15 or 16 and wanting to escape.
By herself?
With her best friend.
Okay. So.
And they both became au pairs, right? But like left their homeland, did not know a lot of English, just enough through Swedish school, which required English. Came here, and I was like, she broke free from the eldest daughter. And I'm like, I am not going to be the eldest daughter, right? Because of all those things you learn as you become an adult, where... You know, as the eldest daughter, you're supposed to like communicate with your other siblings, but you're also supposed to take care of your parents. I'm like, in my head, I've now accepted this is the Inga theory. Everybody takes care of themselves until they need help, and then they ask for it.
Yeah.
But it's not like constant caregiving. And there's almost a permission in her mind, and I find it still very useful to me.
Yeah, she showed you that you didn't need anyone's permission, basically, right? And I think that those are the untold forces that end up shaping our decisions or our practice or whatever, because
you got to keep these people around. Like there are people, we've talked about like distancing ourselves from people, but there are some that you just have to keep around. Yeah. And she's definitely one of them for me. Actually, all my aunts have been, even the ones that married my mom's brothers. All amazing.
Love it.
Like, you know, there's the aunt who always checks in on your emotions to make sure you're okay. There's the aunt who is highly rich in cultural knowledge and arts and music, and she will fill your soul to the brim, and it is fantastic. And they all have their little quirks, and they're all perfect for me.
Aww.
And I think everybody needs that, right? Like, it doesn't have to be your aunt or your uncle. It could be someone you brought into your chosen family. It could be a friend. It could be whatever you need. But keep those people around, too, that help you get to you where you want to be.
How do you know when somebody really cares about you?
Oh, trust your gut, I have to say, right? Like, it's so important to understand when you have a physical reaction to a human being and whether or not you need to remove yourself from the space or you need to distance yourself. You will know, I think, physically if that needs to occur.
Just to demystify it, I wonder if we can go to a place where we talk about how that feels. So you've talked about a time where you sat at a dinner party near somebody who you somehow knew was a killer and was proven to be a killer later on. But like, do you remember like how it felt or what sensations you experienced? And I only say that because I know there's so many people out there who are experiencing a mind-body connection, whereas like somebody who is in tune with their intuition, they will know, but there's so many people who are not. So I wonder, like, can you describe at all any of the sensations, whether it feels, you know, like good, this person is the right person, this person loves me and cares about me, or this person is a danger, this person is somebody I need to get away from, or this is a person I need to set a boundary with. Like, can you articulate any of those feelings?
There were two that I noticed then and I still notice. The air around me feels like it's suffocating. But secondly, I am usually a person who is very still and doesn't like a lot of movement, right? Like I'm focused and I'm going to be wherever I am and I'm just going to be as still as possible. And when, especially seated next to the, you know, killer, I felt like a need to like move, and like I felt like my body had to move, and I could feel that sense that
You felt like this agitation.
like there was too much emotion, it was too much chaos, and I could just like feel it in my person. Like my legs were jumping up and down, and I couldn't keep my hands still.
Wow.
Yeah. So now when I see people fidget, I'm just like, is there a killer out there? Which I know is not true. It's not necessary for everybody, but that's how it worked for me, right? Like I noticed my body was reacting in the exact opposite way that I normally would.
You know what's interesting? A couple things about that. One, that means you have to know yourself and your nature and your like kind of homeostasis, if you will, right? To notice when there's like a dysregulation basically happening. The other thing that came up for me is like in society, this is another reason why like you really have to be paying attention to what's happening in your body, because my theory is that this world today has been set up in a way to keep us in a constant state of dysregulation. Because when you're dysregulated, you're easier to manipulate, frankly, right? So that's another part where it's like you said just a moment ago, like you notice all these people fidgeting right now and you're like, is there a killer? Well, the truth in my mind is like, yeah, there is, because there is a sense that there's danger everywhere.
Yeah.
Because of what we're fed and what we're consuming and the fact that we don't feel safe.
So true.
Right? And, I don't know that the world has ever been a safe place, generally speaking. But you should feel, you should have some sense of safety in your life overall, especially because if you're always on edge, then how will you know when you're really in imminent danger? That's the part that worries me the most, is like when all these people are feeling constantly agitated and constantly anxious, how will you even sense like, an imminent threat?
Yeah. Wow. I think about times that I have been in situations where there has been an imminent threat. For instance, when I was studying for the bar in San Francisco, I would study at one law school library. My husband was in culinary school. I'd walk through downtown San Francisco at like 10 p.m. to collect him, and then we would go back to where we were living at the time. One day I decided to take a shortcut at my 10 p.m. And my 10 p.m. was perfectly clocked. Like I knew where the security guards were at all the buildings, because, I have a 22-year-old blonde girl walking through San Francisco at 10 p.m. at night. Probably not my best choice, but I did it anyway. But I only felt an immediate fear when I decided to take a shortcut one day and went through what apparently is the most, violent block of San Francisco. It was just like, and I'm like, I had never felt more like I was going to be kidnapped and thrown into human trafficking than I did at that moment. But
so all your alarm bells were going off.
Yeah, like I could feel it in my skin. I could feel the air around me. It was all the things I felt. as, a kid sitting next to a killer. Wow. And so I trust it. And my husband has learned to trust it as well. Whether it's me saying, we need to go, we need to go, we need to go.
Yeah.
One day I was sitting on the sofa and it was raining outside and I stood up and I just said, tornado, tornado, tornado. And he's like, what is happening?
You're sure like, tornado.
Enough, there was a tornado.
The tornado's happening.
Right, like, I just knew. And
wow.
so it's also having people around you who trust you and your instincts, right? And I think that helps you, at least it did for me, have more faith in my instincts. Because when I was the kid who was sitting next to a killer, like, parents did not believe me at all. And I wasn't speaking English, so that my father is irrelevant. But I was communicating across the table to my mom, and she was like, "Oh no, don't worry about it." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking when you said that, I wonder if there are ways that we can practice being, one, more in tune with our intuition, and then two, practice actually trusting it, right?
Yeah, and being around people who trust it. And I think part of that is trusting when other people have a reaction that maybe you don't like, but understanding that you want to protect their intuition because that's their choice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it makes me think about when, I've worked with people who are in domestic violence situations, and they have a very different opinion of what they should do in that situation than I do. And I've had to learn to be like, well, you're the expert. And they are, because no matter how much you think you know better, like, you didn't live what they lived.
Yeah.
You don't actually know who you're dealing with. You don't know what they're capable of. You don't get the sense of how they're gonna, make you feel, and whether or not those like alarms are going off, right? Like, all you know is whatever that person has been willing to share with you, which is never going to be the complete story. It just can't be. There's no way to communicate that, right?
There isn't. And then I think it just hit the touchstone of all the things that society tells us, right? Like, embrace your discomfort, or walk through the uncomfortable parts, or it should be hard. And I'm just like, okay, Puritans. Cállate, Puritans. I've had enough.
That's a shirt. Cállate, Puritans.
That is a shirt, isn't it?
That is a shirt, for sure.
But without society, not only are we, as humans, not probably all hardwired to understand our intuition and see it in ourselves or trust other people and their intuition, we have a society that's also telling us
exactly
it's okay if it's hard. It should be hard. Things are better when they're hard, right? Because you've worked through them and everything is stronger. You have to earn it. Right? What is that Hemingway quote about? We're all stronger in our broken places. And I'm like, do we really want to encourage people to keep, putting themselves in situations that are hurtful or harmful? Or
why do we have to be so strong?
Yeah, exactly. Right? And why can't they? How can we not have a voice from society that allows people to trust their instincts, right? Because I don't think telling people to work through your discomfort or be comfortable with your discomfort is necessarily a great idea if we're also encouraging people to listen to themselves and trust their instincts, right? It seems to me very much in conflict.
It is, yeah. And I think that's to me, on the like larger sociological level of it all, is how we end up with so much patriarchy. I mean, it's the idea that, like, if women have this intuition, they should ignore it. And if they're uncomfortable, they need to get over it, And I'm using women and patriarchy as like one example, but there's so many.
There are, but think of all the decades in the United States where women were called the weaker sex, right? Like that was just the common vernacular. And I'm just like,
yeah,
absolutely
they just used it as like a general thing on the thing that we throw on the thing, No.
Today I saw a very fascinating interview with international women footballers, so like football with the round ball, right? Global football. And they were being asked, what do you think will be the difference with the Women's World Cup? And their answers were fantastic. It was like, there will be less emotions. There won't be so much throwing yourself on the ground, pretending like you've been fouled when nobody was touching you. And I'm just like, they're like, it'll be stronger, we'll be less emotional, we'll be actually playing football and not acting on the pitch. And I'm just like, this is amazing. Right?
I
Like
love it.
it's also the idea that we're starting to hear more in society that perhaps men are the more emotional people of the women men dynamic.
Did you see that new movie on Netflix? I don't know if I endorse it or not, but it's Sacha Baron Cohen.
I did. It was
You see that movie?
fantastic.
That was amazing. The way that they flipped everything on its head just to be contrarian, and just to demonstrate like how much, patriarchy moves throughout these spaces, especially workspaces. I thought was pretty genius.
And I can attest in that film there is like reciprocal sexual harassment. And I can say that when I have been sexually harassed, I then sexually harassed back, and that is like neutralized. And they portrayed that in the film. I'm like, if you get to that point, it is a tool in your tool belt.
See, I would think, well, I don't know what you mean by sexually harassed back, but
Verbally, it's not like I'm going around grabbing people. Let's be clear.
I just I think about like how much the cards are stacked against, and I always think like, you have to have this sense of, or I feel like I have to have this sense of like, I mean, I don't know how else to say it except like being perfect. Like other people are allowed to like do stuff and get away with it. And, even doing it back, like I bet I would be the one to like get in trouble and they wouldn't or something, to like, I just wouldn't even risk it because
But
of
it
the
is so
setup.
hard, right? Because
Yeah.
especially as a woman or anybody who is othered, or if you're a brown person or a black person or an immigrant or queer, it's not the same footing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would love to. I love proving a point, but that's what came up for me when you said that. I was like, oh no, that's scary.
And it is, I admit by privilege that I could pass as a United States citizen person.
Yeah. So, ending on the highest note,
Yeah.
the last thing I want to ask is, what kind of people have you intentionally surrounded yourself with, and why?
I have, in many ways, like you, have invited people into my world that I found that there was something missing in me, right? Like you have allowed me to become more vulnerable, and I love that, and I love our relationship because I had never in my life felt so safe, right? There was no judgment, and I was a person who rarely judged other people, but having that in your own life, so powerful. And somebody who, and surrounding yourself with people who like believe in you, right? It's so simple, but whether it's because you are capable or because you are smart or because your intuition is so great, whatever, like there can be one person who appreciates your intellect. There can be one person who appreciates your kindness. There can be one person who appreciates your intuition. But it's almost like, in many ways, like making yourself whole, right? Like maybe sometimes I think of myself as like a sieve, and like these people like plug the holes that I've found missing or my trauma created and needed that space, because I'm a person who didn't realize that being safe was what people needed and wanted, right? Like, because I think I had my defenses up so much. It wasn't until I turned 40 that I understood, like, oh my word, safe places are fantastic. And surrounding yourself with people who like help support your safe space just by their mere existence, right? They don't need to be like doing things. It's just their existence fills some hole that makes you safe.
Yeah, and you
How
get that
about
sense
you?
of safety.
How have you helped curate your life and environment?
Well, I think the first thing is allowing inspiration. So, when I have encountered people like you, when I've encountered people like another person who I consider a sister, like just learning to receive that kind of love, I think is huge, right?
It's hard,
and
too.
it's difficult too, because if you're always giving and you're never really receiving what you need, then you don't really know how to do that. It's a new thing, and where did I just hear this? Somebody was saying, I think it was when I was watching that thing, with Adam Grant. He was saying science has shown that we often think that like our perception or our prediction of like our ability is more accurate than other people's, but science has shown that actually other people are more likely to be able to predict your ability than yourself, in a good way, in that like when you have a coach and they see something in you and they know that you can do it, then you can do it even if you don't believe it, right?
It's that acceptance that other people might actually be there for good.
Yeah, well, that part, right? And that's what I mean, is like, that's the first thing for me, is like being able to actually receive, I called it inspiration, but just like being willing to like accept that there are truly good people who actually care about you and love you. I think that has been a thing for me where I have felt like I am the value that I bring to the relationship, not inherently worthy, right? But like when I find people who really love me, I can feel the difference. And what I did, like very intentionally and very like in a mindful, like literal brain-based way, like a conscious way, is several years ago, I remember thinking like, I don't have time for all these people. Like and like, again, I have to get to the limit. Yeah, like I have to get all the way to the limit to be like, oh, not a possibility.
Was it like burnout of like?
Yeah, like just too many people I'm trying to like interact with, please, or whatever, right? And I just realized, oh, like I can't maintain this many like relationships, really. Like it's just too much. And I literally took like a stock of like who is it? Like who is the cream of the crop? Who are the people that I actually want to spend more time with? Because like you said, they make me feel different. They make me feel good about myself. They make me feel like I can do anything. They make me believe in myself more. They make me want to be, not even want to be a better person. They make me feel like I am a better person than I think I am, right? Like, not in a delusional way, but in a way of like, they really believe in you. They really love you.
Reciprocity of that, right?
Yeah.
Too. I think that when we encounter people who make us feel better, it's often because we make that person feel better.
Yeah. But I love when it's effortless. That's the other thing. The other thing I really noticed is that for me, again, like the consciousness of it all, the mindfulness of it all is my hardest kind of like challenge. But one thing I've noticed is the amount of effort. So what I've noticed with relationships that really aren't serving me, now that I'm able to reflect back on it, is like, at the time I didn't know. I didn't even know. I did not know that these relationships weren't serving me until someone pointed it out, that I was saying like, this is exhausting. Like I'm like physically tired. And again, like the body doesn't lie. The body is just honest with you. And your brain, you can think up anything. Your brain has limitless imagination, right?
Especially when you're an analytical person and you start to rationalizing the situation.
You have too much good thought. Like you have too much ability and capacity to justify anything, rationalize anything in the world, right? So like I started listening to my body more, because looking back, I'm like, oh, those relationships were like, we talk about it. Everyone talks about it as like, oh, they feed you, they serve you, whatever. What does that mean? For me, physically in my body, it means like, if I'm having to do so much to convince you to like believe in me, convince you to like me, convince you to love me, convince you to treat me the way I deserve to be treated, my body will tell me, you're exhausted. This is exhausting. This is draining the living life out of you, right? But the opposite is also true. So like every time we have these conversations, we both are like, I feel amazing. I feel
like I've had a massage. Even
literally. And we didn't even have to pay for it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and so when people say like, oh, be around people that fill your cup and all this language, I'm just like, I literally did not know what that meant until having that moment where I actually take stock and figured out, like, just like you said, reflect back on my, like, how does this person make me feel? How do these people make me feel? And I literally made more time for those people. I think this was around the time we might have started the podcast where I was like, I want to spend more time with Tessa. I was like, I don't know how I get more time with Tessa. I want to talk with her more. I just want more time with her. Like, it's amazing. And I mean, I literally, like, when I prioritize something, like, it goes on my calendar so that I can, you know, keep that focus and stay true to my priorities, because, you know, time is our most precious asset. And so that's where I think you have to make time for it. And just like, again, that phrase that you said earlier keeps coming back to me, where it's like, you have to schedule your peace.
You do.
Chaos will schedule itself, right? So like, if you don't like, literally for me, it's literal. Like, if I don't schedule time with the people that bring me the most joy and fulfill me and fill me with love, is kind of what I want to say, then the chaos of the world will take all of my energy and all of my time, right? So that's what I do.
So what have we learned today? Because I feel this, as we've talked about, this is the first time we've recorded together in person, and we may have, you know, been a little more voracious in our conversations as usual. So apologies, but I also feel like it felt really good. But I feel like during our conversation we learned we have to figure out what we want to have in our life and what we want around us. Consider the source is a question we need to constantly ask, because do we want that? Is what that person or thing telling us the type of stuff that we want, and should they be telling us that type of stuff? Because we have the power to shut it out. And as you pointed out, trust your gut, trust how you feel. And if you start feeling icky or weird, or you just want to like flee or shut down, that should be it should be your bat signals.
Yes.
And trust it.
Yes.
Because we trust you.
Yes.
To trust yourself.
Absolutely. And like you said, there are ways to put that into practice. I really love how you started by talking about, you know, just journaling about your emotional state with different people. So if you really don't know who is making you, you know, feel loved or is not, then, and then, you know, then there's a way to take stock in that as well. So thank you for sharing all of that, Tessa. It's been wonderful to be able to have this conversation, especially in person. It feels like we get to feed off of a new energy that I don't know can 100% be transmitted without the physical, right? So it's been lovely. Thank you again for another beautiful conversation. Until next time, y'all, stay uplifted.